makes me feel like a man.
You want every team to lose any other game? Sorry. Bailey Zappi just put another dime. You know what? Whoa, time out. Are you kidding? That's what I'm gonna try to drop a mic. Welcome to the Warner Brothas Podcast. I am Keenan, joined by my brother Kyle, joined by Timmy. Milestone episode, boys. Episode 200. We put 200 of them things together. Clap it up real quick. Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm glad that we've been able to put in 200. Looking to put up 200, 300, 400 more. But
we might need a toast at the end of this podcast, actually.
I don't have anything with me, but you know what? I can go get a Sprite or something. Go throw back an old, not the dirty Sprite, but go throw back a Sprite or something crazy.
Danny ain't got a White Claw over there or anything?
Danny does have a White Claw in the fridge.
You can shot a White Claw. You could shotgun a White Claw.
I'm sure I'm going to shotgun a White Claw. That would be garbage. But hey, how was your boys'? You're right. It is 200. It would be all for the 200. How was your guys' weekend?
Weekend was cool. I mean, we had the in-season tournament final, which was cool. It very much had an NCAA tournament feel to it, but I enjoyed it. Yeah. Great games yesterday. I mean, hey, this is what November, December, January football is all about. The unpredictability, the controversy.
Yep.
The teams playing spoiler. I love it. I'm already ready for week 15 as we speak, but we got 2 Monday night games. So that's cool.
Got the 2 Monday night games before we get the 3 Saturday games this coming week, which is crazy. Timmy, your weekend good?
Was pretty good. Some decent football, some not so decent. Like Kyle said, definitely some spoiler, which is great. I love seeing spoiler. I love seeing teams that don't deserve to be there not be there. So that's best.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I want to start off with just what we would expect to start. I'm not going to go Cowboys yet. I'm going to start off with the Chiefs Buffalo Bills game. So, Kyle, I know how Timmy feels real quick, but I don't know how you feel. How do you feel about the call and Mahomes' reaction and Reid's reaction to the call of offsides?
Glad you asked, Keenan. The call was fine.
Yep.
I don't understand what the hell. I don't want to say I lost respect for Mahomes especially, but I was pretty surprised to see him carrying on the way he did, especially in the post-game handshake with Josh Allen. Like, he's congratulating him on a good game, and Mahomes is like, that's the wildest shit I've ever seen. Can't believe that call. Like, I get it. Yeah, it's never called, but you saw the replay. He was on the blue line. Like, you can't – I mean, I was going to say it today anyway, like, I've seen offsides on the offense or on the kickoff or any of that called more than I ever have in my life this year. Like, I can't remember a time when it's ever been that much. Mm-hmm. And I can understand being mad, being called that much, by the way. I can understand him being, that mad over that play in particular. Kelsey pulls off one of the greatest plays you'll ever see. I mean, that's an all-time play if that play stands, no doubt. Funny enough, on the day Frank Wycheck passed away for the Titans, he's the one who pulled off Music City Miracle against the Bills. That would have been wild had that stood. I mean, it was some irony there, but it was the right call. We see some bullshit calls every week, every game from refs, and I saw the replay and I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, he was in the neutral zone. And then for Mahomes to be carrying on about it, I don't know. It was pretty rich of them considering how much they benefit from calls. I know I was sitting there waiting the entire fourth quarter, like, all right, when's the Chiefs call going to kick in here? When are they going to get a good call to go their way? And didn't happen. And, I don't know. You can't be the face of the league franchise quarterback complaining about that call. Be mad at Kadarius Toney if you're going to be mad at anybody. Don't be mad at that call, especially when there's video proof. If it was 50-50 and you could say, oh, I don't know. Sure. Then okay. But he was in the neutral zone. You can see it. I can see it. Tim can see it. We all saw it. So be mad at Toney. Don't be mad at the refs because that one wasn't on the refs.
And Timmy, I talked to you a little bit before, but your thoughts?
Pretty much the same thing. The call it's a rule for a reason. If you violate the rule and they call it, you can't be mad at it. Definitely didn't like Patrick Mahomes not being like, hey, Josh Allen, great game. He was just like, oh, that's shit. Like, how dare they blow that game for us? Like, congratulate the man that just beat you, if anything. Have some composure. Like, he said something in the press conference afterwards. He said, you hate to see a game like that decided by the refs. And the only thing that went through my mind was every game ever that's been decided for the Chiefs by the refs. That, like, they should have lost, but something happened. And it was just like, he was on the wrong side of that.
Championship game last year, Super Bowl
even the Super Bowl
year.
had a little bit, like everything. It's like,
and those are judgment calls. This one was
like
dry.
clear, undisputed. He was offsides, and like you said, he was over the blue line. If you look where the ball is, he's even further offsides. It's not even close. Like, he's looking down, and he's like, it was a pretty bad offside. So. And then something that felt a little shady, though, was they brought in a ref on the broadcast, like a previous Super Bowl ref, and they were like, what are your thoughts on this? And he just, like, had the stats for no reason. He's like, over the last 2 years, they've only been called twice. But this year, it's already been called 11 times. And I'm like, how do you know that? And how do you know that fast? Like, did you know something was going to happen? Yeah, exactly. He was like, my moment. He seized it. So I just thought that was kind of weird, but, like, it's offsides. It's been called plenty of times this year. Hell, it got called in the Eagles game. They called the guard offsides on their offensive line. Like, it's a penalty. Just live with it. You should be mad at Toney if you're mad at anybody.
Yeah, and I think this kind of boils down to some of what the Chiefs' problems are this season is, like, there's a lack of accountability throughout the locker room right now, it feels. Like, a lot of it's been talking about, MVS with the pass interference. It's got, obviously, but that should have been called, and it wasn't called. But just because that wasn't called last week doesn't mean this shouldn't be called this week. You don't do wrong like, hey, I got away with going 55 and a 35 last week, or they didn't call me for that, so I'm going to do it this week, and then they shouldn't call it again. Like, regardless of...
I don't know about that. That's kind of how I operate, actually.
But. Yeah, but okay, again, that's how a lot of people operate. It's like, okay, so I went through the same spot last week, and I went 45 and a 35, and you didn't pull me over, but this time you pulled me over, and the person who gets pulled over is pissed off about it. Why? Because it's like, why didn't you do it last time? But then again, it's also like, you're going 45 and 35. The rule is only go 35. I can pull you over if you're going 36, but. Like, this wasn't like he was going 36 and 35. He was over the line. Like, this was completely clear as day a penalty. And so I don't understand what the problem is there. You talk to Toney. You talk to these receivers for drops. You got to button up. This is a team that we hold at the highest of standards that you possibly can hold because they're 2-time Super Bowl champions over the last 6 years. They've been to the AFC Championship game every year within that span. Like, they've been in the Super Bowl 3 times now. Like, you hold them to a high standard. Like, obviously, you being a Patriots fan, could you imagine if Tom and Bill would have reacted like this after something like that happened? Are you kidding? I would think the sky is falling if Tom and Bill acted like that. Obviously, Pat and Andy are too different, like the way their demeanors are and everything. But if Bill and Tom are acting like that, I mean, I've seen Tom get really mad at the refs, but even so, I feel like Tom acts differently to, say, Peyton Manning after the game. Like, I think he shakes Peyton's hand because, I mean, this is close to either Peyton, Phillip Rivers, whoever you want to kind of compare the Allen Mahomes. But I think after game, he's still like, okay, still a good game. And in the presser, he's like, you don't like to see it come down to that, but still, we got to play better football. We only put up 17 points today, so blank. But that's that on it. I think it's childish for them both to complain like that about it. It's whatever. Like, deal with it. Next time, tell Toney to move back. You didn't need a warning. You don't need a warning for doing something wrong. You know what you're doing. You're adults.
In a season where I've seen a lot of things for the first time. I mean, like last Sunday with the Titans and Colts, back-to-back punt blocks. I've never seen that in my life. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a million post-game quarterback handshakes. Never seen one like that where, again, Mahomes of all people is going to complain. And, he's got to know, like, it comes with any championship where people are going to be like, oh, the champion gets calls. But in the Chiefs case, like, I'm not even that guy. It really does seem like the Chiefs get more calls than, like, your average team. And yeah, I can remember, Keenan, you might remember this. It was a Pats-Panthers game. It was a really good game, Monday night. And like,
the one in the end zone, Gronk.
Luke Kuechly hugged Gronk in the end zone, and Belichick was on the ref, whatever, and maybe even said something about it in the post game. But it wasn't like they were straight up complaining. And you know what? All that tells me is that they know, like, this season ain't out for them. You know what I mean? Like, they know they're gonna have to go on the road most likely. They ain't happy about that, and they know this team ain't got the goods to win at the end of the day. I mean, they could claw their way to the AFC Championship game, but man, if they went to the Super Bowl, I've said this time and time again, I would be genuinely surprised. I mean, sure, at the end of the day, I might be like, oh, okay, Mahomes, right, whatever, Andy Reid, whatever, but this team ain't as good as the Ravens. This team ain't as good as I mean, look, they faced the Browns in Cleveland. Might favor the Browns there. You know what I mean? Like, there's just this AFC is wide open, but I mean, the Bills, given their record, are just as good as the Chiefs right now and have better weapons, which is exactly why I was all over the Bills yesterday. If we're going to get into the game, though, the Bills absolutely try to lose that game just as much as the Chiefs try to lose that game. I mean, I couldn't believe they had the ball. It was 2:10 on the clock. I don't know if it came off a penalty or what, but it was 2:10 on the clock in plus territory, in Chiefs territory. And I'm like, cool. Run the ball a couple times, get it to the 2-minute warning. If you want to get aggressive after that, cool. No, they tried throwing the ball each time and couldn't even get it. I think it was third down at 2:01 on the clock. They never got it down to the 2-minute warning. They didn't bleed any clock. They gave Mahomes as much time as possible. He still had 2 timeouts with 1:35. They were dying to lose that game. But
they tried their hardest.
They tried their hardest, and props to Kelsey, because that was an amazing play he tried to pull off. Like, that's just a heads-up play. I mean, he's lucky that Toney was ready for it. But
as I say, Toney was complaining. I don't know if you saw, but Toney was like throwing his hands up because he was open and didn't get the ball there. So I am surprised that Toney was ready for it. If you watch it, like, Toney got open and he just threw his hand up. You could tell he was frustrated. And then Kelsey threw him the ball. Obviously, he caught it and then he was in the end zone happy. But if you look, you can see him visibly frustrated. And it's just assuming that it's because he wasn't getting the ball, because it didn't look like there was any like holding or anything like that on the play. And so I don't even really know. This team feels discombobulated. It really does. This team just feels discombobulated and not ready to play. The one saving grace for them is that this AFC is as wide open as possible. That Joe Burrow's down, that Trevor Lawrence isn't fully healthy and the Jags haven't been there, that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are definitely the best team in the AFC, but even they haven't separated themselves. They had a really good win yesterday. They had a really good win yesterday, obviously, but it went to overtime. It was great to see Lamar have that game-winning style drive. But obviously, Stafford came down. They got the field goal, but good to see that. But the Chiefs could find their way into the Super Bowl. I would be shocked. This is the first time this year I've really felt like I would be like genuinely shocked if they did, just because of how bad they're looking. But they could find their way in just because of how bad the AFC, like, on a level of what we thought it was going to be. We thought the contenders are going to be high, and they just aren't that. Because then you have a bunch of unproven teams. You've got the Dolphins unproven, the Jags unproven, obviously the Broncos, the Texans, the Bills are one of your most proven teams, and they've only gotten to the AFC Championship game one time, and they're the 11th seed. They're not even in. So, like, really, when it comes down to it, you might have Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and everybody else in the playoffs may not have a playoff win or really even a game behind them, other than Joe Flacco, which is why the Browns could be semi-interesting if playoff Joe Flacco comes back. But, yeah.
Man, I have a few responses to what you said. I mean, look, first off, if any coach and players have reason to complain about an outcome yesterday, it is the Rams and Sean McVay on that punt return. There looked like there were some blocks in the back on that play yesterday, which would be a complete judgment call.
Yep.
look, the Chiefs, just to wrap it up on the Chiefs, first of all, that was for as much as the Bills really tried to throw that game away and the Chiefs didn't want the game either. It was still a really good game. It was still a December football game that had real stakes, that felt like a playoff game. Josh Allen had that fadeaway throw, which was like the definition of chaotic. Like, I'm trying to figure out how the running back just like stayed where he was. He could have gotten that ball and, still got the first down. And for him to turn upfield and for them to like telepathically know that was the play, that's one of the most incredible plays you'll ever see, period. But I mean, look, the Chiefs, they dug themselves this hole. They said week one or going into week one, Kadarius Toney, we view him as a number one guy. Tim's a Giants fan. He knows. I mean, we could have seen this coming, really. I mean, I think a lot of us were saying this week one, like, hey, if this is the receiving core, cool. Like, as long as Kelsey's making room for him, then okay, yeah, it might work. But these guys can't get separation. They don't have that what do you call it? That cohesion with Mahomes, like a Kelsey or like the receivers of the past. These guys just aren't consistent at all. So, the Chiefs dug themselves this hole. They still have a really great defense. They still have Mahomes and Andy Reid at the end of the day. But hey, there's enough talent in the AFC, and the AFC is literally just like who's got it that week. You still got to favor the Chiefs a little bit. We'll see how we feel once it gets that time. But I mean, this receiving core is just not it. It's not it at all. And, we'll talk more about the Chiefs week to week. But,
of course.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll save some thoughts for later. We'll talk about all these other teams. I'll get to that later. But I have a lot of thoughts on the Ravens, Browns, and so forth.
Yes, 100%. And so obviously, the other main big game from yesterday, Eagles, Cowboys. Cowboys demolition job, 33-13. They look like they got the MVP at kicker and quarterback. He was kicking from all over the lot. And he's doing it with such ease. I think this year you might find, because of how he's been playing, you might try to find a lot more soccer players to go try to play in the NFL, because like if you can get second level, third level soccer players who are like, hey, you're not really playing much, but we can throw a bag at you for just kicking a bunch of field goals. Okay. I think some people might actually do it because they have such great legs, obviously, because what they do is kick. But Timmy, what were your thoughts on the game, and what were some of your takeaways from the the Cowboys demolition job of the Eagles?
The Cowboys defense really shined when it needed to. We've kind of seen them play against good competition and just kind of like back down. Like the Seahawks, they let up a lot of points. But 3 straight drives, or I don't know if it was 3 straight, but it was 3 drives that were all looking like they could have been points on the board, ended with fumbles, which were huge. Yep. Jalen Hurts,
your
AJ
3
Brown,
best players.
And then, Devonta Smith finally gets one at the end there. That was really it for me. Was the offense didn't look like it was the offense that it's been for the last few months, and their defense was able to take control when they needed to and just get a stop. It didn't surprise me that they lost. They've lost a lot. I think it's 6 in a row on the road against the Cowboys. So, you kind of expect them. They're 2 really good teams. You expect them to split. Just kind of how it goes. But I think the Cowboys are definitely rising in my rankings in my head. I think they're definitely a lot better than I want them to be. So, yeah, I'll give them the pass here. I think they're doing pretty good. We were talking earlier, and you said that you think that the Cowboys could be like a Super Bowl team. Still don't know about that, just because they're the Cowboys. So,
fair enough. Kyle, what are your thoughts on the game? Cowboys, Eagles.
It was a weird game in general because, I mean, me and you talked about it Thursday, like how this game really could have the same recipe as last week. Like if the Cowboys get up at all, like how much of a fight will the Eagles really put up? Like will they be up for the fight? Because I mean, in general, this game really didn't mean as much to the Eagles as it did the Cowboys. Eagles lose this game, they can still win the division, and they're set up very well to win the division. I actually think this coming week versus the Seahawks will be Monday night. I think that'll be a closer game than what people are really like talking about. Like I almost think I don't know if this is related at all, but like Geno Smith was a late scratch. I almost wonder if they're like, all right, we're not going to beat San Francisco in San Francisco. Let's put all our chips in the bag for the Eagles next Monday night. Bring Geno back, have the whole offense. Like maybe that's their thinking. Seattle is notoriously a tough place to play. That's their season next week. So you got the Eagles coming off a gauntlet. This has always been part of the gauntlet, the Seattle game. So, I mean, that's a different story. I mean, we'll get to that, I guess, Thursday. But they did not need this game as much. So that's where I'm really struggling to really, like, what are my eyes telling me? Like, yeah, the Cowboys look like the better team. The Cowboys look like the more mature team compared to the Cowboys teams of past. But I think most people would have been on the Cowboys winning last night, you know? So that's where I'm struggling. Like, it was a great win. It's one of the best wins of the Dak era, the Dak and McCarthy era for sure. But it's like, if they were going to win one, it was going to be that one. That's when they needed. You know, if they lose that game, none of us are taking them serious for the Super Bowl. And now it's like, okay, now that they beat up a beat-up Eagles team, are we supposed to take that seriously? Yes, we should. But at the same time, it's like, you know, how much credence should we really give that? So that's where I'm struggling at. I do take them serious as a contender. I kind of have all year. I've put them behind the Eagles. Now I almost want to put them on the same pedestal. But like Tim said, push comes to shove. I'm still taking the Eagles. But the Cowboys, at least at this moment, look more explosive, especially on both sides of the ball. So I don't know. But you still give the Eagles time to get it right. Their offense looked weird yesterday. I don't know, but they still have a ton of talent, so you can't really count the Eagles out.
Here's the thing. I completely agree with that you don't count the Eagles out, but they haven't looked right for a while. They've just won games, which has obviously been good. So like it's shown the resiliency of the team. Obviously they had the late drive against the Chiefs, and then obviously they came down to the plays at the end there. They obviously had the late drive against the Bills, and then it came down to the plays there, obviously. But they haven't looked really great all season. They've just gutted out wins, which is obviously a really good thing to be able to do. But Dallas looks better than they do. Like they look more physical. They look like they can move the ball offensively, defensively. They look like they are more live right now. Like, obviously, you can trust the Eagles late in games, and you can trust them. They're going to be trustworthy in the playoffs. It's not like they're an easy out by any means. But right now, at this moment, the Cowboys are a better team than the Eagles to me. Because you're right about the health. But I also don't know if Jalen Hurts is getting healthier this season, and that matters. I don't know how much healthier they're really going to be by playoff time. And with that loss, they're at least going to have to go to San Fran. They shouldn't lose again. I mean, they play the Giants twice, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks. The Seahawks game would be the one to lose, probably, if there was going to be one. They shouldn't lose again, so the division should be there. Dallas shouldn't run the table, in my estimation. I think they probably will lose one. But you never know. It could happen where Dallas could run the table, and they could lose to the Seahawks next week, and they don't. But that's nothing I'm predicting, but right now I think Dallas is a better team, and I honestly would favor Dallas in a matchup with them right now. Again, if they played even in Philly. I just think that Dallas right now is playing like the second best team in football just behind the 49ers, who are a juggernaut when healthy.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong in feeling that or saying that. I mean, like I said, I kind of feel the same way, but at the same time, it's like once it gets to playoff time, I think the play calling will be better for the Eagles. And that's really where I'm hung up on the Eagles is A, their play calling, and B, their defense, which is exactly where the Cowboys could get them. You know, if that offense is playing that way and is being that aggressive, they absolutely could go into Philly and win. But if Philly gets back to being an efficient offense, you know, I liken them to the Denver Nuggets last year. The Eagles offense, they would just get, you know, they try to get to 2nd and 5 and then try to get to 3rd and 3. They wouldn't even worry about the first down and second down. They're just trying to get as much of that 10 yards in whatever increment they can. You know, they're constantly playing that 2nd and 3rd and short. And that's when they're at their best. And I don't think they've done that enough late in the season. It seemed like they were at least doing that when times got tough earlier in the season. But, I mean, look, they're still making it through this gauntlet in a positive record. So, I mean, they're still doing the right thing. They're just trying to get to the playoffs. And the playoffs are a different game. I mean, we've seen enough of the Cowboys to know what they're like when they get to the postseason. Thing is, they do look like they have grown up. But, if you want to pick nits in that, you could look at their schedule and say, all right, who have they really beaten outside of the Eagles? It's really just that Eagles win. Maybe I think they got a Rams win in there too.
Seahawks.
Seahawks. Yeah, that Seahawks win was good. I mean, we were expecting a bigger win. So there's nits you could pick all over. The Eagles definitely have more holes. I think we'd all agree on that than what they did certainly last year. So I don't know. There's such a toss-up to me. I really don't know what to make of it because, I wouldn't be surprised either if the Eagles went and blew them out in the postseason if push came to shove. The Eagles just have that in them.
I would actually surprisingly, I'd be surprised at a blowout. I wouldn't be surprised at a loss.
Right.
The
maybe
Eagles
not a blowout. Maybe,
maybe I know
like
what you're saying.
Maybe like a 10-point win. You know what I mean?
I just
like
don't think the Eagles right now have the problem that I have with the Eagles. I just don't think they have the ability to even blow anybody out.
No,
and not
they
that
look.
You have to be. Not that you
they
have
look
to
less
be able
explosive.
To. Not that you have to be able to blow somebody out, but even like the Cardinals game coming up or the Giants game coming up, I should think those are 15-plus point wins. They might just escape by 8. And cool, it's a win, and it's the NFL, and that's what you aim for are wins. And even if you got to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl just by winning by 3, by 4, by 2, you won the Super Bowl that way. So kudos to you. But like, as you and I did, Kyle, when we were like the Giants game, like when they were playing the Giants, we booked. There was 17.5 at the line at one point or something along those lines. Everyone was hammering the line because they're like, okay, they're going to blow out the Giants, the Cowboys would. And they did. It's just like the Cowboys this year have 8 wins of 20+, which is like 2 behind the most ever, which was the 2007 Patriots. Not going to talk how that since ended, but the 2007 Patriots was the most. So like they've been, when they need to, which has been most of their schedule, they've been blowing people out. Well, over these next 3 weeks, they've got the Lions. They've got Lions who are reeling right now. They got the Bills who are desperate and playing hard, and then you got the Dolphins who are going to be chasing a 1 seed. So they got 3 big games coming up. If they can go 2, I was gonna say if they can go 2-1, or if not 3-0, they could even possibly they'll be solidified as the second favorite. They're never going to be solidified as the favorite until they see the 49ers. Again, the 49ers have had their number the last 3 years, so like it's impossible for the Cowboys to be the favorites until they see the 49ers. Even if like Debo went down again, to me they can't be the 49ers until they actually see him and beat them. But I was gonna say, Timmy, I don't know if you had any other points on this Eagles side or the Cowboys side of things at all. Okay. How did you guys feel about the Ravens win? I don't know, Timmy, if you want to start. How do you guys feel about the Ravens and how they're won? Obviously, they're now looking like they're in firm position as of right the second for the 1 seed, them or the Dolphins. But how did you feel about the game?
I was definitely worried throughout the whole game. It was kind of just like a back and forth, and it didn't seem like the Ravens were really showing that they were the better team. I was expecting the Ravens defense to really put up a better fight. It was going to be bad weather. We knew that. And, they let them score 31 points on them. So I was definitely a little underwhelmed with how the Ravens played. But they got the win, which is good to see. I don't think the Rams are necessarily like a bad team. I think they can hang with a lot of teams. So I think this is a pretty quality win here. It's good to just see that they were able to play all 4 quarters of football when they needed to and get the dub. Versus like when they played the Colts and they needed to play all 4 and they didn't get it. So it's a good thing that they won. Good to show that they could. Zay Flowers came through when they needed him to. Lamar played a great game. It was just kind of a different type of win. Normally we see them kind of blow up and just run the ball really well. They didn't really run the ball too well. They threw the ball really well.
Kyle.
Yeah, it was a good win for them. I think my takeaway more so was on the Rams, like how formidable of an opponent they are and are going to be for everybody they face down the stretch here. I mean, they have a great shot of making one of those wild card spots here. So, I mean, the Ravens, I've said it before, I'm a Lamar fan. I mean, he's on my fantasy team in the league we all are in. And look, it says a lot now that like when I either if I'm betting the Ravens or I just have Lamar in the lineup in general, I'm like, I don't really know what I'm getting from Lamar. Like, yeah, I know he's going to get me points, but I wouldn't be surprised if he throws 2 picks today. Or I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a fumble here. I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens just happen to lose to the Rams. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I don't have the utmost confidence in them. That I should, given their record and given their pedigree, given that they do have Lamar at quarterback and Harbaugh as coach. They got some playmakers. I know they're missing Andrews, but, you know, you expect a little more confidence in them at this point in the season. That being said, like Tim said, you know, they've coughed up this type of game before in the past, in recent weeks. They didn't do that. They got the win on a, you know, walk-off punt return that might have had some blocks in the back. Hey, but they got the win. Who's their schedule? Who they got next week? They got a couple divisional games left. They got the Bengals the last week.
Jaguars next week.
Jaguars next week,
Sunday
and
night.
then
That's right.
they have a gauntlet over their last 4.
It's pretty tough for them.
So hold on just a second. I had just read this off with Timmy before. They have the Jags next week on Sunday night. Then they have the 49ers on Monday night.
That's
and then
right.
they have the
Christmas.
They have the Dolphins on. No, they have the Dolphins going to them on the 31st. It's probably going to be for the 1 seed now that the Chiefs lost to the Bills, even though it possibly could not be. And then they have the Steelers last week of the season in Baltimore. It's a gauntlet.
So, you know, I just got done saying I don't have the utmost confidence in them, but I do like them in that Jacksonville game, and I do like them in that Dolphins game, you know?
Yeah.
49ers, that's tough for anybody. But that's a great holiday lineup, though. New Year's Eve, you got them versus the Dolphins. At home, I'm assuming. That's Dolphins coming to them.
Yeah.
And then at Jacksonville next week. And then Niners on Christmas Day. Christmas night, I believe. That's going to be a great one. So, hey, just like the Cowboys, we're going to find out. You know, Ravens have had, at least compared to the Cowboys, Ravens have had tough games here and there spread out. But the fact that they got some here at the end, yeah, it'll tell us a lot. And hopefully Lamar can stay healthy. But, you know, overall, I mean, yesterday's win was pretty on brand with what their season has been. You kind of can't predict what they're going to do, even though they only have 3 losses, right? So, yeah. I don't know. They're a weird team to me. I'd love to have more confidence in them at this point, but I don't have as much as I should given their record. But
I like the win. I think they should. I thought that they were going to win this game kind of going away, honestly. And I thought that just because you had the West Coast team going east, Lamar 17-1 against them. He's now 18-1. He was 37 touchdowns to 7 picks going in. He's now 40 touchdowns to 8 picks. So he's still played great against West Coast teams coming to him. Off the bye, John Harbaugh's 12-3, now 13-3. So, like, I expected a win, but I expected it to be by more. I expected them to cover. They didn't, but they did get the win. The fact that Lamar led them down on that drive at the end, I think, says a lot. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I really like how Odell's looking. I think that he's a legitimate playoff weapon, and he's been in playoff caliber games. He's played in the Super Bowl where he was on his way to being Super Bowl MVP until he got hurt. He played with the Giants in a couple playoff games, even though he's had some bad moments there, so he knows what those feels like, along with having good moments on that Rams run. So I like everything about this Ravens team is to like, and since I'll say this because this is something I wrote down today thinking about it. We've mentioned this a little bit before, but the Ravens and the Cowboys, if they don't get to the Super Bowl this year, it's not great. Like the Cowboys, NFC Championship game, I should say to the Cowboys, because unless they see the 49ers early, which if the 49ers on the 1 seed, they might have to see them early. But barring a 49ers match, and even so, the NFC is as gettable as it is. The Eagles obviously are a good team. Don't get like a really good team, but they're banged up. You can tell they're banged up. Jalen Hurts has been banged up all year. He's continued to look banged up. Other than the 49ers, the Lions are young. The Lions are not able to put together wins right now. They look like they're reeling a little bit, like they're showing their youth. And then other than that, in the NFC, next team's probably either the Rams or the Packers. Like, unless I'm forgetting one, like the NFC South to the NFC South, and then like there's not much in the NFC right now. You have your top teams are obviously your top teams, and then after that, it's like, what do you have? I think the Cowboys are in a great position, but especially the Ravens. No Burrow. Herbert just got injured. Trevor Lawrence is banged up. CJ Stroud, if that was going to be like a first round matchup or anything, obviously in concussion protocol, but if he does miss this coming week, that could literally knock him out of the playoffs. The Bills aren't in it right now. Chiefs are like every single team that you possibly could even think of. The Browns are on a fourth string quarterback. The Steelers are on their second string quarterback. Every single team other than you right now isn't at full strength really, other than the Dolphins. But the Dolphins haven't even been there at all. Tua's never played a playoff game before. We'll see what goes on there. Obviously, they made it to the playoffs last year and lost, but they didn't have Tua for that. So, especially the Ravens, but the Ravens and Cowboys, they definitely should be thinking Super Bowl. And if they don't get there, it's going to be a little disappointing. More so on the Ravens side to get to the Super Bowl. For the Cowboys, it's really, if you can't get to the NFC Championship game this year, my goodness, what else do you need? So, like, it's that kind of thing. Unless they run into the 49ers in the divisional. But even then, I don't want to put that caveat. I shouldn't be like, hey, you can't beat this team, so I can't give you credit for that. Like, no, they've beat you so many times, go beat them. Like, you need to go beat that team. I understand they're very, very good. But if there's a team that has the weaponry to kind of match firepower with them offensively, especially with how Dak's playing, it's you. And then defensively, you may not have as many playmakers, but Stephon Gilmore is looking closer to what he was in New England's Defensive Player of the Year than on the other side of his prime. We've got, obviously, Micah. You got DeMarcus Lawrence. Bland's been playing great at corner. Obviously, there's been a couple times he's gotten beat, but otherwise, 5 defensive touchdowns. He's playing great. Dan Quinn's calling great games. This has got to be the year for both of them. It's got to be the year for both of them, in my opinion, to do.
I both agree and disagree on the Cowboys point. Because I've had the same line of thinking. Ravens, I mean, that's why I'm exactly so worried about the Ravens. You know, like I mentioned earlier, I should have more confidence in them. But, like, there's literally nothing to like in the AFC in general.
I would love for Lamar to win a Super Bowl this year. Like,
I would
for
love
me,
it.
like I'm a Lamar guy.
it.
I would love for Lamar to get a Super Bowl MVP. Like, him hoisting the trophy would make me happy. Like, I'd love to see that.
Look,
I really hope like that's honestly like a little favorite. I hope that would be my favorite one to come out of the AFC right now. But sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I've been banging that drum for since at least week 8, where I'm like, look, it's set up for the Ravens. And the closer and closer we get, I'm like, all right, they might get home field. And maybe once they get home field clinched, maybe I'll feel a little different. But I'm not even if you gave me a 50-50 shot Ravens versus the field, I don't feel fully confident in the Ravens yet. Maybe I'd feel different with Mark Andrews. There's something about him and I can't explain it. And that's me as someone who's rooting for Lamar. So I don't know what it is or why. And I can't even come up with a team that would be the one to replace him. Honestly, it would be like the Bills if they get in. That's one I think everyone should be afraid of if they get in. I can't take the Jags seriously yet. Chiefs, I mean, we talked about the Chiefs. We know how I feel about them. But it's all set up for the Ravens.
If the Dolphins get home field throughout,
that could be it.
Then that would be the one team. But they have to beat the Ravens to do so. Because if the Dolphins get home field and they get to play every game there, Mostert got down to the 2-yard line. Sorry, that matters for you, Kyle.
That does.
That matters for you.
Scoreless in both games right now?
I don't know about the Giants game. Timmy, you're going to be the Giants guy. I'm going to be the Dolphins and Titans guy.
I could look at my phone, but I'm lazy right now. But the Cowboys, I agree with you, Keenan. I was thinking last night, they definitely have the potency to beat a 49ers team. I don't see it, but if there was one team to do it, it'd be them or the Eagles. And the Eagles they don't have the potency right now. I'm not writing them all the way off. I can't write them off yet. I don't think they're getting back to the Super Bowl right now. That's my gut feeling. And obviously they were my Super Bowl pick. But I mean,
a fumble at the 2-yard line, botch snap, and then the Titans have it. So Mostert's not going to score.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. Dolphins aren't making the Super Bowl if they're playing like that.
Yeah, I was going to say Dolphins are absolutely not getting there now. They're gonna
Ravens
lose
all
out.
day. Ravens all day. I mean, look, just to wrap it up though. I mean, look, I can't see anybody beating the Niners right now. I really can't. AFC, NFC, anybody. Cowboys would be your best shot. Especially I mean, just in general, you'd probably put the Cowboys 1 right now if you had to. Number 2 would still be the Eagles for me. But
I'd love to see a rematch of the Eagles. Oh, not Eagles, sorry, the 49ers and Ravens. That game in 2 weeks, I think. I'm really
could be the
excited
Super Bowl
for them.
preview.
We're going to be watching that together, Kyle. That's going to be a blast.
Will be. And there'll be the NBA game on at the same time, but that'll probably take top billing because, yeah, that absolutely. I mean, who knows? By then, Lamar could put together 2 or 3 games. I guess it'd be 2 games one game. We're already
one game of
in between for Christmas. That's crazy. I gotta start my Christmas shopping tonight. So there you go. But no, I mean Lamar maybe. I mean this week and then maybe that 49ers game. Maybe he turns it up a notch and he shows us what MVP Lamar really is. But I mean he's played pretty slightly above average, I would say, this year. It's been a weird season for him.
Yeah, it's been.
I will say, I just want to bring this up. I'm sure we're gonna talk about it, but like with MVP, like now Dak's the favorite, and he's really given us 6 MVP weeks. Like his whole season hasn't even been MVP quality. Last week, Purdy was the favorite. I'm just hoping for Tyreek and CMC to continue having big games down the stretch here. I would love to see one of them win it. I think this is their only real shot at it because I doubt we'll have a poor QB year like this year or have as many starting QBs out as we've had this year. So I'm hoping Tyreek has a big game tonight, continues to cement that because I think he will have a resume at the end of the season, especially when you stack it up. But I mean, I was going through Dak's games last night and weeks 1 through 6, it was the definition of average. Since then, he has been MVP quality.
Since the Rams
game. It hasn't been, yeah. And it just hasn't been, 14, 15 games of it. That's my only nitpick with Dak. And Brock Purdy, I mean, come on. Brock Purdy is great. He's fun to watch, but he's not the reason why the Niners are where they are. The weapons are. So,
yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. He's like the 3rd or 4th. He's player-wise, he's the 4th or 5th best player on his own offense. Like, pick 6 for the Dolphins from our alignment.
What did I tell you? They're going to score a touchdown.
Yeah, you did. But Dak over the last 7 weeks has been playing phenomenal football. Like, he's been an MVP over the last 7, but you're right. It's a whole season thing. So I get where you're coming from with that 100%. What I did want to say, Kyle, on a kind of side note, and then we'll go into other things. The Christmas Day game schedule for like NBA and NFL kind of works out for us perfectly. Like it kind of works out perfectly. We got Chiefs Raiders at 1, which will be a solid fine game. But you got Bucks Knicks then, and then you got Warriors Nuggets at 2:30. So that takes your time. And then you got Eagles and Giants at 4:30. Couldn't care less about that game. I'll keep my eye on it. Couldn't actually care less about that game. But at 5 o'clock, you've got Celtics and Lakers. Perfect. Mm-hmm. And then at 8 o'clock, you've obviously got the Ravens seeing the 49ers. You have the Heat Sixers at that time. You're going to be watching both. Both matter. And then right after that game's over, you've got Mavs Suns. So like Christmas Day kind of works out perfectly in how they put it. They put the Warriors Nuggets game and then the Lakers Celtics game in the perfect spot to where that's prime time Christmas. That 2:30 and that 5 o'clock game are actually the prime time Christmas spots. And that's when you got the Eagles and Giants, who I couldn't care less to see. So it's gonna be a great sports day for us.
Yeah, thankfully those 2 early games, thankfully, are not much to watch. That's for sure. And then you get Niners, Ravens, not really by itself, but close enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say Sixers Heat's cool, but like it's not Niners Ravens.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to watch, and we'll have them on concurrently. But yeah,
I'll probably move a TV into the same room so we have like both of them set up. We'll have it set up nice. I do have a quick question for you guys here. It's a question that has been brought up before on like different years at different times, but it's a year that I feel like the question needs to be brought up. Timmy, I'm asking you first. Do you think the NFL needs to change their playoff format? meaning that every division has a winner. Every division has obviously a winner, and that each division winner has a home playoff game.
Potentially. This is definitely a few years in a row now where we've seen pretty much the NFC South and low-key the AFC South just let us down every year.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be like opposed to it. But at that point, if we're not doing division winners, you kind of just got to get rid of divisions, which is like a problem. So I would say keep it the way it is, and we just hope that crappy division gets better. It does fluctuate. Like it used to be, the NFC East used to be the worst conference, and now they're like one of the top heavy conferences. So I don't necessarily think having the division winners in is bad. I would rather see the 9-8 division winner not be the 4 seed. I could agree with that. Maybe make them the 5 seed if they're worse than the 5 seed. Like right now, the 4 seed in the NFC is the Bucks at 7-6, right? 7-6,
6-7,
yeah. 6-7 Bucks, but the 5 seed is the 10-3 Eagles. So like you could definitely flop around and do it by record, but
yeah.
And then if it's like 2 teams from the same division, whoever won gets the home field, the other team doesn't. They could definitely fix it, but I don't really see a big problem with it right now.
All right, Kyle, how about you?
I agree. They could fix it, but the NFL ebbs and flows. You can't really fix it because of what the last few years have been. Because, then you're taking the importance of divisions, which really is like part of what holds the NFL together. You know what I mean? Like in the NBA, divisions are absolutely meaningless. There's no point of even having them. Winning your division means nothing. In the NFL, it means something.
It really doesn't.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, just because I'm thinking about it, like the Pacific Division, which is the best division in basketball, like they have 5 teams that make the playoffs. Now because they have the Lakers, Clippers, Kings, Warriors, and Suns. Like the division winner of the Pacific doesn't matter. All 5 of the teams are going to make the playoffs. It doesn't like it. It's not like a certain amount of teams can make it. Like all 5 of them, they could be the 1 through 5 seed, let alone not that they're gonna be. But yeah.
Like it would be cool if the NBA actually did determine that for home court to some degree. I mean, then you'd have these exact issues in the NBA too, because the records are all over. But so I like the NFL's importance. Really, what I think they need and what they're eventually going to do, for sure, is I think within the next 3 years we're going to see an 18-game schedule. I think their playoffs are pretty perfect. I thought they were perfect before they added the wild card. I thought it was just like whatever. Now we're that last wild card spot most of the time is going to be a bad team. I think like we had the Steelers and Roethlisberger last year going to who I forget who they played.
Kansas City.
It was a KC, exactly. So you're going to get that in a lot of cases. But like in the case of this year, it could be the Bills as that last wild card spot or the Broncos at that last wild card spot. So playoffs are fine to me. I think all I want to see is for them to just finally add that last regular season game, get it back to even numbers. And I think that would even out our Thursday night games. I think that would make the Thursday night games even better because they would probably set it up where it's teams off a bye playing on Thursday night. But playoff format's fine. I don't think there's anything they need to change at all.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking was doing away with the division winner getting a home playoff game. But the division winner does get a playoff spot. Just because, because last year the Bucks were 9-8. The Cowboys, I think, had 12 wins. The Cowboys were 12-5, and they had to go to Tampa. And then this year, the Cowboys probably are going to be 12-5. The Bucks or the Falcons will probably be, honestly, 8-9, and they're going to go to Atlanta or Tampa. And it's okay. I understand it's back-to-back years where and it's fine because at that point, if you're really a 12-win team, you should go to the inferior competition and win. And Dak waltzed in there and completely took apart the Bucks last year when they were reeling. And then this year, they probably should do the same thing if that's the case. But I don't know. There's just a little part of me that thinks that if you win more games than them, you should probably be hosting the game. You've done more work all season to do such a thing. But that's that's the only thing. I do
partly,
like the fact that there's divisions.
It's partly true, but then again, like I said, I mean, then you're running into the same. It's not necessarily a problem, but it's it's what the NBA has, which is why even have divisions. Because if you're not playing for home field and you're just playing to get in, there's really no point other than for scheduling. Yeah. And again, it just ebbs and flows. Like, yeah, that happened last year, but I can tell you, everybody, it was like, yeah, the Cowboys should win this game, but nobody would have been surprised if the Bucks had won.
Oh, no,
that was the sentiment going it. Yeah, that was the sentiment last year, which was like, the Cowboys are the Cowboys. They lose this game, even though they should blow the Bucks out. And of course, they ended up doing that. But so, I mean, it all depends. It's all dependent. And you know what? Honestly, like if the Bucks make it this year, they're honestly the most formidable opponent for anybody. Like they're the most complete team. They just haven't been consistent. The Falcons have no business being there. The Saints prove week after week they don't want to be there.
The Falcons
Panthers,
the Falcons don't have the quarterback to be there. The Saints don't have the coach to be there, and the Bucks just have inconsistency problems. But they have what it takes to be a playoff caliber team, especially in the NFC. It's just that they don't seem to. Since week 4, they just can't put together back-to-back great weeks.
Yeah, nobody wants to win it. Somebody's got to win it. That's exactly where we're at in the NFC South, and it's been entertaining, but the Saints should be better. I can't even put it on the coach. Like Derek Carr hasn't been great. They could have been turned to Jameis.
Carr hasn't been great. No.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no reason why they shouldn't have at least turned to Jameis for a game. Just based on Carr's play. So, that, and then the Falcons are just, I don't even know what the hell to call them at this point. They have so many could-be playmakers that are not. So the Falcons are just in their own class, honestly.
Okay. That was all I had question-wise there. Because I was going to do some real or fakes, but we actually naturally covered them throughout the entirety of our talking. So I don't even need to. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
I would just like to ask you guys, I touched on the MVP. Who is your guys' personal MVP at this point throughout the season? If you had to pick one.
I think it'd have to be... I think Dak's going to probably win the award as long as he doesn't flame out at the end. I think Dak will win the award. If I had to choose one, it'd be Tyreek Hill. Christian McCaffrey... What's up?
Do you think the Cowboys are running the table?
I think they can lose once and he can still get it.
So you think they're going 3-1 down the stretch?
I think they will. They play the Commanders, I think, the last week of the season.
Mm-hmm.
That's a dub. That's an easy W. Let me look at their schedule real quick. I think it's the Dolphins. It's the Browns.
Bills, Dolphins,
Bills, Dolphins, and Lions. They have the possibility of running the table. I think between probably the Bills and the Dolphins, because they go to both, they'll probably drop one. But I don't know which one yet. It would make more sense that they drop it to the Bills, just because the Bills are a more physical team, and that seems to get the problem a little bit. When the Cowboys control the line, they're almost unbeatable. And I think that the Bills can help control the offensive and defensive lines more so than the Dolphins can. And because I think that the Cowboys are very, very suitable and can beat the. Is Tyreek Hill injured?
He did just go down clutching his knee.
Great. Well, so much for that MVP and everything else. And possibly my fantasy season. No, hopefully he's okay. Shit. Let me tune into this game with you guys.
Sorry for viewers who are seeing this, but I'm watching this replay right now. Ooh, he got his
twisted up.
Yeah, he got his leg all twisted up there. He's hobbling.
Oh, he's walking off.
Doesn't look great, but he's walking off.
He's part.
Give him a breather. Yeah.
But anyways, okay.
Oh, he's running. He's good.
Yeah.
He's fine. He's jogging.
Yeah, okay.
I can take over on that MVP talk though.
Yeah, no, you take over the MVP talk, I'll get back to it. Sorry, I was mesmerized by Tyreek Hill, so just barely.
I think I pretty much agree with you here. I think Dak is probably going to win it. It'll probably come down to Dak and Purdy, and I think Purdy can really have a shot at it, just statistically. Um, Everybody wants to not put Purdy in it, and they say that they call him check down Purdy or whatever it is, and that it's like not him doing this, but statistically he's there. Like he's in the
Oh,
top.
absolutely.
And I don't remember who it was. I saw it on social media. They had brought up the last like 5 MVPs to win it and their yards after contact percentages. And Brock Purdy's right now is lower than every single one of them except for Lamar Jackson.
Mm.
Pretty sure like both of Patrick Mahomes, he had like 49 to 52% of his yards come from after the catch. And Purdy right now is at like 46. So he has shown to me that he can make throws. Like this last game, he made quite a few throws down the field that resulted in big plays. So I think you can't count him out. The only thing is I want the NFL to give it to like Tyreek or CMC to prove to us that this isn't just the most valuable quarterback award and that it is the most valuable player award, because it's just been quarterbacks. You know, I want to see if Tyreek hits 2K, you give it to him. You know? So,
Yep. So finishing what I was saying, and Kyle, I'll let you answer. Brock Purdy has to be statistically in the conversation, but the thing with Brock Purdy is, like, he can. It's the same reason why I don't feel like Tua is there either. When they're not under duress, the offense that they're put into, they make every single throw possible. They usually make the right reads, and they look like they're putting on a light show because everything is just open for them. And don't worry, don't get me wrong, they make throws. Like his throw to Debo yesterday, Brock's, that was a great throw. Like that was a great throw. Like it's not always easy to put the ball 45 yards down the field on a line in stride. That's not an easy thing for
rolling to your left.
Yeah, that's not an easy thing to do. Like I'm not trying to take away from these two quarterbacks. They're easily both top 15 quarterbacks in the league. They both can play. They both deserve to be in the league. It's just the fact that when their team has needed it this year, they both haven't performed at the highest of levels yet. And that's the thing with them. Like, obviously, when they needed it against the Chiefs, Tua wasn't that great. Obviously, he got the bill against the Browns. Brock got him down, and they missed a field goal. But against the Vikings, he missed plays. That could have been a concussion. Against the Bengals, when he needed to make plays, it wasn't there. So, like, it's just been in situations like that when they haven't made plays, or when they've needed to make those plays, like where it's been do or don't. They've been more so don't, as to where, like, Tyreek Hill, you can go back to big plays. Even week 1 against the Chargers, he made that obviously the big catch. Obviously, Tua made that big play there too, so I'll give him credit for that because that's a nice throw. But Tyreek Hill made a great catch on that, on their touchdown one. But Tyreek is the engine that runs that offense, and Debo and Christian McCaffrey are the engines that kind of run that offense in San Fran as well, which is why I would lean it to them. But because of the fact that Debo has come on so strong as of late, and Christian McCaffrey's still been great, but like it's been Debo and Christian McCaffrey these last 4 weeks, it's really been Tyreek Hill in Miami. I would lean Tyreek Hill as the player. And so I would have Tyreek Hill as my MVP, my personal MVP. I do think that Dak will probably win the award, barring catastrophic stuff down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say Dak probably will win it just because it's literally been week to week. Like 2 weeks ago, we were saying Hurts. Week before that, people were saying Purdy, or last week, I should say, people were saying Purdy coming off the win. I actually disagree with their sentiment that Brock Purdy hasn't made the plays. I think he's played as well as he possibly can with that team. I mean, he's putting them in position. Like, he definitely didn't do it in that Vikings game for sure. Like, Kirk Cousins outplayed him. But, you know, I think he's been better in spots than Tua necessarily has. But I completely agree with your sentiment that the Dolphins are the Dolphins because of Tyreek, not because of Tua. You know what I mean? You take Tyreek off that team, they're still probably, like, who knows, depending on who you replace him with. Like, they still might be a playoff team, but Tua definitely doesn't look as good, right? And, the Niners are the Niners, like you said, Keenan, because of Debo and CMC and Ayuk and everybody else and Kittle. So that's where it's like laughable for me that Purdy's in that conversation. I think Purdy's excellent. Like I love him as a QB. I really do. But MVP, like that's insane to me. Like you're completely right. Like the Niners are where they are because of CMC, because of Debo. I think it's hilarious ever since we brought up that Aaron Hernandez versatility thing. Like Debo's just gone the fuck off. Like
he heard it.
It seems like
he heard it.
It seems like every play is like a 70-yard touchdown for him.
He
It's
heard
like,
it.
shit.
You can't convince me he didn't hear me say, well, then Debo's better than Justin Jefferson. He's like, oh, bet? Okay, I am better than Justin Jefferson. Let him stay on the sideline. He can't even play a full game now. And I'm going to go out here and look like the best receiver in the league. But no, absolutely.
Yeah, no, he looks great. And you're right. Debo, the way he's emerged, excuse me, it almost kind of dampers CMC's campaign. But look,
Not that it's been bad. He's been great. But it's just literally just because of how great Debo has been. It makes him be like, oh, it's not only Christian McCaffrey. It's Christian and Debo. Like, it can't be a joint award. That's the only reason why Christian McCaffrey kind of gets half a step back.
Let's say tonight, though, let's say Tyreek goes for 2 touchdowns and 157, right? Like, great stats. It's putting him closer to 2K. And he continues to put up those type of numbers. And, like, he's down the stretch, like, that's what we'll remember from the season. Like, he keeps having these big games down the stretch, and he doesn't win MVP. I would hope that the NFLPA eventually goes to, you know, whatever meetings it is, and like has the award changed. Like, give out a best QB, give out a best position player, because then it's pointless. Because you can't tell me this year, like we brought it up, you can't tell me like Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, players like that, Micah Parsons. You can't tell me players like that, Fred Warner. You can't tell me they haven't been more valuable than some of these QBs, right? And as we said, Dak's been since week 6, week 7 on where he's really come on as like this MVP candidate. It's not like if he'd been playing this way since week 1, then we'd be saying, oh, this is Dak's year. But the fact that we're just going to base it off stats and a few good wins down the stretch, that kind of cheapens the award. Because, yeah, this should be a year where CMC and Tyreek should be like in consideration, which I think they finally are, at least in talks now. But like, this is their year to win it for sure. And we should just have these years every once in a while where it's like, oh, all right, no QB standing out. Sure, we'll give them the edge, but you know, maybe a defensive player wins it, maybe a position player wins it. This is gonna be the part where I bring up 1982. Somehow a kicker won it. That's always my favorite fact. But like, nah, I mean, there's no reason why Dak, Purdy, they should be the front runners right now. Like, yeah, they're playing the best QB right now, sure, but that doesn't make you the MVP of the league. Tyreek, CMC, they would be 1 and 2 still on my ballot.
One thing I do want to say, quarterback-wise, and someone who I would almost be more okay with it, who's not there right now, if Lamar Jackson runs the table and on Christmas Day gets himself like one of those vintage Lamar games and he won it, I would almost understand it more than Dak, and especially more than like Purdy or Tua, just because he is their offense. Mm-hmm. Like, that is like their offense over there. And so they're right now 10-3. If they got to 14-3 and he ends up going over 1,000 rushing yards, he goes over about, let me see what he's at right now currently passing yards wise. He goes over, say, 3,500 passing yards. Probably about 3,700 passing yards at least. If not even, he'd probably get 4,000 depending. Yeah, he'd probably get 4,000. 35 total touchdowns, especially if he goes 1,000 rushing yards. Then yeah, I absolutely think that he can sneak his way back in and get the MVP award. Because like this
should be Lamar's award to lose. Like, that's what I mean. He should have been separating himself, but he's putting up very average stats right now. But he could put himself back.
This is the thing about it is like this feels like the Ravens' years to lose. And if they lose it, it's like, oh. Okay. But yeah, also Jaden Reed got a touchdown too. So, I mean, I'm probably not looking good against Tyler. But that's okay. That's alrighty. But yeah. All right. Is there anything else, Timmy? Did you have anything? Kyle, did you have anything at all?
I have a question for you guys.
Love it. Love it.
All right. This might be interesting. We've flirted with the idea of Sean McDermott potentially getting fired if they don't make the playoffs. If they've kind of let us down a lot recently.
You heard about his 9/11 speech?
Yes,
I did not.
I did hear about his.
I'm going to have to look that up. Here's the question.
Sounds very pro 9/11. That's all I'll say.
Unintentionally,
I guess. Unintentionally, but he sounds pro 9/11.
there was like, lack of a better term, like a manifesto that pretty much came out about Sean McDermott that had like 20 to 25 different sources. Some current, I think, coaches on the staff. Like there are multiple coaches that are saying, and then one of it was about he had like a 9/11 like speech that tried to like, I think like a galvanizing speech, something along those lines. But it's something definitely to look into. But go on about Sean McDermott. It's a crazy accusation. It is a crazy accusation.
I'm definitely gonna research it after this.
Yeah.
So my question isn't actually about Sean McDermott. That's kind of just to set the table here. Just because we've definitely had conversations about him not being the head coach next year or potentially in the future. Here's my question. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers fire Mike Tomlin?
No.
Why?
He's black.
See, I feel like I know where you're going with this, but why shouldn't they fire Mike Tomlin? Because what has Mike Tomlin done really wrong? He's Bill Cowher won one. He is a Super Bowl champion with that roster. He's gotten less than adequate quarterback play for the last 4 or 5 years, and every year they've still managed to be at least 500, if not above. And I think that he's coached the team phenomenally. I think he's been great as a coach there. It's really been offensive coordinating wise. Obviously, we know how much you hated Matt Canada. You are a Matt Canada hater completely.
To be fair, that hire is Mike Tomlin. He hired Matt Canada.
See, that hire is Mike Tomlin, so you think that's on him. But also, like, I don't think he's the one that picked Pickett. If he is, then that's too. But, like, really what comes down to is their quarterback play hasn't been great. Mike Tomlin's a defensive coach, and their defense every year has been what their defense is supposed to be. So I would not fire Mike Tomlin.
Okay. Yeah, no, I wouldn't fire Mike Tomlin either. I mean, Steelers fans go through it with him where they're like, he needs to be fired, but it's like, if he's going to be fired, who's replacing him, kind of thing. I'll tell you this, like if Tomlin, let's say they did fire him, which likely won't happen, but let's say they did. Let's say they fired him. I mean, I like, what's his name, Dable? I like Dable a lot. I really do. I think he's one of the bright spots as far as coaching, and we see tons of bad coaching each year. But like if the Giants got Tomlin, I think that instantly legitimizes them, you know? And I think that's the case with a lot of teams if they got Mike Tomlin. So the fact that the Steelers kind of just have him on lock, yeah, you give that guy players, he's going to at least get you to the playoffs at the least, and certainly most of the time the second round. I know they've had their blunders in the playoffs, especially in Ben Roethlisberger's later years, but I don't know. Coaches are hard to come by in this league, like extremely hard to come by. He's still relatively young for a coach. It's been rocky the last few years, but it hasn't been bad. You can't always point to him for being the reason why it's bad. You know, you give that guy a quarterback, I think they do start to get, in that AFC North, can they take the division picture? Which you can't really say that with Pickett as of right now. So, wow, who would you replace him with? Do you think
I have
he
no
should
idea.
be fired? Do you think he should be fired?
Here's my question.
All right, go ahead.
Here's the thing.
All right.
In the NFL, you got to stay relevant. You got to stay with the times. You got to be able to win. You got to prove to me that you can win in today's age, right? The NFL changes every year. So the Steelers under Mike Tomlin, right? He's been there since 2007, have made the playoff 10 times. Do you know when their last playoff win was?
2016.
Correct. They haven't been relevant.
They lost to the Patriots. Lost to the Patriots and got dog walked because that was the Chris Hogan game where he played as good as Julio Jones, I believe. He got dog walked by the Patriots in the AFC Championship game.
Do you remember? I think it was 2020. It might have been the year before that.
Browns game.
The Steelers were like 11-0.
Yep.
And everybody was talking about how they were the most fraudulent team in the NFL.
Yep.
And then they got proved, right? In the first round of the playoffs. They lost.
Yeah, they started off with the old hike over the head for a safety against the Browns.
Tomlin, to me, hasn't proved that he can at least get with the times. Like
I'm losing
hiring
to
Matt
Tyler.
Canada. Yep.
Sorry, I'm going to lose to
Saquon
Tyler.
touchdown.
Saquon touchdown, Jalen Reed touchdown, and the Dolphins scored a touchdown. My God, I'm losing to Tyler, and it's not even 9:30 yet.
I told you.
I
told
know.
you.
I know.
I was worried.
Yeah.
Tough.
Tough.
In my opinion, it wouldn't be that big a deal if they let go of Tomlin because he hasn't proved in the last 7 years that he can win. So even if you do suffer for like a year or two, or if you get like that new Mike McDaniels who completely changes the offense, right? Kyle, you didn't really believe in Tua. Their offense has led them to like 9 wins, maybe 10 tonight. So, you get a different coach in there. Maybe it's not necessarily Kenny Pickett's fault. Make Kenny Pickett. They have a decent supporting cast. George Pickens is good. Deontay Johnson's good. Pat Freiermuth is good. Najee's good. Jalen Warren's good. They're all players that can play football. But together, they can't assemble an offense to score more than 18 points on the Patriots.
All right, so
with Mitch Trubisky as quarterback, let's be clear about that.
So here, I agree with you to an extent, and then I disagree with you for the last extent of it. The reason I think this is similar to how I feel about Bill Belichick, but different. And the reason why it's different is I don't think that Bill Belichick should not coach anymore, and I would love to coach for Bill Belichick to coach the Patriots. The thing that I don't want is him to touch the offensive personnel any longer, like coaching-wise, and I don't want him to be the GM. And for Bill, for him to have to be there, I think he has to be both. He won't step down from GM and that. So if they got rid of Bill, I think that I would be okay with that because I feel like that's the best for the entire team moving forward. But if you're telling me that I could just have Bill Belichick as a coach and then he just looks, and then I'd be happy with it. I don't think Mike Tomlin has that kind of stranglehold over the Steelers. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I don't think he has that kind of stranglehold over the Steelers. They need an offensive coordinator. If they get an offensive coordinator, then I would be more confident. I would be fine. I'm fine with Mike Tomlin being there. I really think it has to do with them if they can get an offensive coordinator in there that can do what you're saying. Because you're right. In today's NFL, you need to be innovative offensively. You need to be able to kind of push things forward. That's why we've seen Brian Flores was not a bad coach, but we saw the jump that obviously Mike McDaniels has had because of how the offense has been. Brian Flores has been doing wonders with the Vikings defense. They clearly just won a 3-0 game. That was a disgusting game. But he's been doing wonders with the Vikings defense, who has been not great over the last few years. This year they are. So I think Mike Tomlin and Bill Belichick are like two of the best defensive coordinators in the league still. I just think that they need offensive coordinators there. And so I get what you're saying, but I think in the Tomlin case, you can get an offensive coordinator to help out with what you're saying rather than having to fire him.
For me, Tomlin is on a short leash. I would say maybe not a short leash. I don't know if that's the right saying here, but let him finish this year. And then I'd probably give him one more year. And if you can't prove to me that you can at least hire a coach that can change this offense to where they can actually win games because of their offense and not only their defense, then some changes need to be made because that'll be 10 years of no playoff success from playoff caliber teams.
Monotony isn't good, Kyle. I'll let you respond to that.
My response to that would be like, what coach is getting positive results with this group other than Tomlin? That's one. B, he has history of having like great offenses. I don't look at him as just a defensive coach. I mean, this is the guy who drafted Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace, Emmanuel Sanders when he was in his prime. Like, he had great years with the Steelers. They're known for at least good running backs. Najee, like they definitely need.
I was gonna say Le'Veon Bell. Obviously, they have Najee Harris. They've had Juju Smith-Schuster when he was putting up like 1,600 yards. They've had offensive pieces for sure. So
if your argument is playoff success, then you got it. Steelers fans have been arguing that for years. Just in general, as a coach, though, no, you're not going to find much better than Mike Tomlin. You're not. And he is still like of the last generation, so he's not as aggressive offensively as like the new Mike McDaniels and Shanahan's and Sirianni's and all that. But he's still as top-notch as you can get. Same thing with Belichick. If these guys were to go on the free market, they would have, they'd be unemployed for like 6 hours, honestly. Like, they would have a job lined up for them. So if your argument, though, is playoff success, then yeah, I mean, like I said, Steelers fans have been saying that since 2016, since 2017. Like, they've been all over that. I just think it's hard to justify that. Playoffs in the NFL are so 50-50 almost, like literally 50-50 with a one-game playoff. So, I mean, you have an argument if that's the case, but if the Roonies were going to fire him, they would have fired him, 6 years ago. So I don't really know when his window is closing because it seems like he's there for the long run. Famously,
they've coaches, had, as we know.
Yeah, they've had 3 coaches over the last 60 years or something like that. And if you go through his win-loss, and you're right in saying this, Tim, it is all past performance, but even if you take this year, I mean, what the hell are you supposed to do with Pickett, Matt Canada, who he fired, rightfully fired, and goddamn Mitch Trubisky if Pickett goes down, right? So it's tough. I would assume they got a new quarterback in there next year, or maybe they try to revamp it with a new offensive coordinator and give Pickett one more shot. But, I mean, he's still winning even with that. He's still winning with even that. So I just, yeah, they would probably, in your hypothetical situation, they'd probably go for a new age offensive coach. But I think we'll still have to wait at least another 3 years, and they would have to be like a wildly unsuccessful 3 years, So Tomlin continues to have success even in this league, even with the quarterbacks he's been given. I mean, he dragged dead Ben Roethlisberger to the playoffs somehow. So,
I was gonna say that was just because all he did, he was checked down Charlie and just threw it to Najee like every 2 seconds, like 1-2 Najee. The only way I could see him getting fired next year, which is not going to happen, is if they lost out, missed the playoffs the next year, went like 2-15. Like, they would have to be terrible.
Yeah, it'd have to be that kind of year.
Like, it would have to be so bad to where it was like so against the norm, because like his calling card for the fact of why he is that good is now because of the fact that it's like, okay, he's never had a losing season. They know going into the season where it's like, okay, we're going to be relevant. We're going to win games. We're going to be in playoff contention every year mentally, because like somehow he's going to manifest teams wins where they shouldn't really get them. I mean, their point differential is terrible and they're still winning games. So I do. It's interesting. I actually think it's more interesting than maybe it seem on the face like, why would you fire Mike Tomlin? But to me, I think they just need an offensive coordinator rather than firing Mike Tomlin. But maybe to get that offensive guy, you might need to fire him, into what you're saying. So I get it.
Yeah, and I don't even think that's the case. I mean, I think it really is as simple as an offensive hire. And then with plenty of teams, we see this, get the right quarterback. I don't think Pickett's the long-term
100%.
answer. So, even with
Canada,
if you get yeah, right. Even with Canada, if that's I don't know. You've got Joe Flacco there. Apparently, you're a better team. So, by the way, who would have thought I'd be rooting for Joe Flacco here, just as like a story? Like, I used to hate Flacco back in the Ravens-Pats rivalry days, and now I'm like, oh, it'd kind of be cool to see Flacco go on a run with them, which is like in play. It's possible. He very well could.
He could even see the Ravens in the playoffs.
That would be hilarious. If it was Ravens, Browns, and he got them out of there, I would be like, that would be a blow to the Lamar legacy. I would have no defense if you're a Lamar fan if he's got out of there by the guy he replaced.
If the Browns made the Super Bowl, which honestly doesn't sound as crazy as I thought it should sound right now, that would be, if it was like a Browns, say, Lions Super Bowl, the views on that, obviously football fans would be cool, but like looking back, that'd just be such a gross Super Bowl. But I mean, obviously it's football, so I would love it regardless. But like,
someone would by default lose by the worst way possible, just given each of their histories.
As I say, could you imagine like on the table you could get like a, say, Cowboys, Ravens, Cowboys, Chiefs, 49ers, whatever, all these storied, nice franchises with a bunch of top end talent, and then you just get like the defensive Browns with Joe Flacco, and then just like the Detroit Lions because they're from Detroit, and you're like, oh man, what has this team ever done? But it'd be fun.
I mean, hey, those are still two very storied franchises. So I mean, they'd have
surprisingly, yeah.
They'd have the angle.
You could find the angle. You could find
those are two of the most snake bitten franchises. So if that ever became the Super Bowl, that would be the first Super Bowl that had like those those jets that fly over. Like for some reason, those would be like they'd malfunction and just crash into the stadium. That's what would happen if the Browns and Lions were in fact the Super Bowl participants, because that's just
like the last throw of the game, the ball would be like shot with a BB gun or something. The ball would just explode, and people would be like, what's going on here?
They'd
What
lose
is
power in the
this?
stadium again, like
lose power mid play
with the Beyonce,
but it wouldn't come back on.
Yeah, exactly.
Come back on.
We don't know what happened, but we have no way of regenerating this power.
We're flexing this to the high school stadium. Quickly relocating.
Flexing it to next Sunday.
We're flexing this to Tuesday. Like they just aired on Tuesday for some reason.
Be nuts. I do want to give the refs credit. Yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw this call in the 49ers game. It was just funny to me. Like, it was just such a eagle-eyed call, and they usually will just always call it against the defense, anything against the defense, really. But it looked like Debo got horse-collared. Did you guys see this?
Yeah.
And they actually got him, like, he actually pulled him down by his neck. And I don't know how the ref caught that in real time, because, like, if you just looked at it, yeah, it looks like a horse collar. And even on the replay, it's like, okay, he did get his neck, but it's right above where his collar would be. So, like, how did you just see that in real time? So it'd be nice if we got that kind of efficiency and eagle-eyed from the refs all the time. Doesn't seem like we do, especially in the case of the defense, but that time it actually was in favor of the defense. So I want to give whoever that ref was his props.
Yeah.
But yeah, is what it is.
All right. Well, this was the Warner Brothas Podcast. You can follow us Instagram, TikTok, like, subscribe on YouTube. We are always going to be on Apple Podcasts, going to be on Spotify as well. So check us out there if you're not checking us out here on YouTube. Appreciate everything. Timmy, appreciate it. Kyle, of course. This was episode 200.
Time out.
Oh, well, sorry.
We need to take a shot for this 200th episode.
There's nothing here. I mean,
you guys got, Tim, you got anything? You got it. Danny has nothing. I don't believe that.
No, I'm not opening a White Claw for one drink.
You got to do it. You got to do something.
I'll take a Sprite. I'll be back with the Sprite.
We got Keenan serenading us.
Take a shot for me.
Jordan Love fumbled, by the way.
Can the Giants win this game? Just add more chaos to the league.
If they did, it would be crazy, because then the Giants are like as in the playoffs hunt as the Packers are.
Imagine, would you be upset if the Giants made the playoffs? Or how happy would you be if the Giants made the playoffs?
I'd rather have like a top 10 pick, because they're not going to win a game.
But hey, never know. All right. So Kyle, you got something?
I do. I got a shot of Crown Royale right here.
All right, everybody, put them up.
We need some Warner Brothas Podcast shot glasses. Is what we need next.
Yeah, we need some.
You got to do a shot of White Claw.
I'm not doing a shot of White Claw. I don't drink, Kyle. You know that. What we need though.
You say that, but I've done shots with you. How do you explain that?
You've done shots with me.
And Tim's done shots with you.
Listen,
now you're disrespecting us and this podcast.
I don't actively drink.
And all the fans.
I don't actively drink. I don't.
But
I take a shot every now and again.
But you have White Claw during a celebratory. Do you have a shot glass?
No, I don't have a shot glass near at all. I don't have this stuff near me. No, we're doing it at the Sprite can. This is dirty.
I don't
Sprite,
believe that if you asked Danny if there was a shot glass somewhere that she couldn't find one. I bet she would.
I probably could find
5 seconds. She'd have a full shot.
Yeah, exactly. Tim, what do you have? What do you take a shot? Tito's there. There we go. Okay.
All right. Well, Warner Brothas Podcast episode 200. Everybody put 200. The drinks up. Put the drinks up. Shouts out to
Tim,
everybody.
Glad to have you on.
Glad to have it.
To be on.
Tap,
clink.
Dirty Sprite. Throw it back, bud. Yep. Oh, man. Thank you, everybody. I may or may not leave all the just stuff that was there. I don't know if I do fun, if I don't fun. Timmy, you don't know about this, but I hope everyone enjoys the new intro. We got a new 200 special episode, a new intro for the pod. It's fire. Shout out to
Kyle, to Nicholas Bogey.
Nicholas Boat for dropping the beat. Beats fire. He gave us a whole collection of beats. So we're going to be adding some stuff here. I want to support. Thank you for everybody for supporting everything. Warner Brothas Podcast 200 and for 200 more again. And we're out.
Like a man.